So did Suga actually buy a baseball team? Well, not quite, but also kind of yes. In a move that's part K-pop history and Wall Street power play, BTS Suga is now officially linked to a major league baseball team, but don't expect him to be calling the shots from the dugout. At least not just yet. Through a private equity fund, he partnered with the very first MLB player from South Korea, Park Chono. Suga is now part of a 70 million investment to Oakland Athletics. And yes, it is that team that's leaving Oakland for Las Vegas. And in this video, we're going to be talking about what really is going on, what kind of ownership Suga actually has in the team, why the Ace became the unlikely K-pop crossover, what really is private equity fund, and whether this is an actual sound financial investment or just PR play. Let's dig into one of Korea's biggest stars who is quietly entering America's favorite pastimes and what it actually means to own a team in 2025. Yes, Suga partnered with the very first MLB player from South Korea, Park Chono, to purchase a team, and we're going to be discussing how that actually happened. So, the team's name is Oakland Athletics, and this is not just any kind of team. They are pretty legendary. They've won 9 World Series titles. World Series is the championship, the equivalent of a Super Bowl for baseball. So when they were still Philadelphia Athletics, they won five: 1910, 11, 13, 29, and 1930. And then when they moved to Oakland, they won three consecutive ones: 1972, 73, and 74. And as far as I know, there is no other team who managed to do a three-peat or three consecutive wins. So the question is, why are they moving? Because there's a lot of problems in the Coliseum. So one, there are leaks, toilets won't flush, there are repairs that need to be done. Also, another big problem was that they were actually sharing it with the Raiders up until like 2019. And this is a different sport, football, and it's just different needs. And so they kept on having problems with the turf or the grass. Two different sports, two different needs. And yes, you shouldn't be using that as an excuse to not win a championship or not perform well, but if you are in this league, in this level, and all the other teams who are just as good are getting the kind of support that they need, then you are most likely at a disadvantage. They've been trying to work it out. They've actually asked for a new home for them, and the city actually promised them a new stadium, 35,000 seats, and it was supposed to be built in a new waterfront. It was going to be a new waterfront stadium at Howard Terminal near downtown Oakland. And the city actually promised them that they were going to build retail spaces, parks, other community benefits, affordable housing for them to attract more tourists in the area. But it has not happened, and it has been pending for about a decade now. And they said that it's because of the city said that there is lengthy environmental reviews and lawsuits. If I'm sure that you know that when you are in California, there are very, very strict regulations when it comes to environmental permits. And usually they meet a lot of protests from environmentalists, especially if it is a new building, a new stadium. They simply don't like that. And then there are disagreements with the city over infrastructure funding and terms, although there are accusations that there is a fund, but it's just being used somewhere else. There's corruption. And then there's political gridlock and changing leadership. This has been going on for 10 years. That's three administration. And so every administration, there's a new rule, a new reasoning, new excuses. And the A's just got frustrated with the slow pace and lack of commitment. So while the talks was getting dragged on, they started scouting for other cities to actually move into. And Las Vegas was a perfect fit. It already embraced pro sports like Golden Knights of NHL and NFL's Raiders. There's also a growing tourism driven economy in Las Vegas that has that's the nature of the city. The city was built for something like this, for tourism. And of course, the state and the city officials actually said that they were willing to fund the new home for the athletics. So in 2023, the Nevada legislature approved a 380 million public funding for a new stadium along the strip. That is a huge deal. If you have ever been to Las Vegas, that is where it happens, in the strip. That's the main area where the hotels are. Basically, that's the heart of tourism and commerce in Las Vegas. So they plan to build a 30,000 seat retractable roof stadium on the site of the old Tropicana Hotel, aiming for an opening in 2028. So this is what it's supposed to look like. If you have ever been to the strip in Las Vegas, then you this would be a familiar place to you. The Bally's is also a hotel, and in that dome, the dome that you see on your screen right now, Tropicana used to be there. That's gone now, and that they are going to replace it. And this is the rendition of an architect. Beautiful. And so, because it is a retractable roof, then on good days, they can actually take that out. And then if it's not a good day, then it will be on. So this is the old Tropicana that's gone now, and this dome, the stadium, is the one that's going to replace it. This is where it's going to be, and you can see the one that says, the street that says South Las Vegas Boulevard. That is the strip, what we call the strip in Las Vegas. And you can see there is the MGM Grand. So they are in the heart of the entertainment district of Las Vegas, probably the entertainment district of the whole of America. So 380 million is going to be publicly funded. State tax credits 180 million. There is 120 million coming from county bonds, and then 25 million infrastructure credits, and then 55 million other public sources. That's where the funding will be coming from. Now, the move to Vegas was approved by MLB back in 2023, and the A's lease at the Oakland Coliseum ended in 2024. Currently, they are in Sacramento's Sutter Health Park until the stadium is built for them in 2028. Now, not everybody is happy, especially those that are very loyal to the athletics. You know, in the US, teams are tied to the city or the state. And so everybody in that state becomes they become everyone is your support goes into the team that's representing your city. So when they announce that they are leaving, then these people aren't happy. But they are actually accusing the team owner, John Fisher, for under investing in the team just so that he can tank it and for the move to actually push through. This is Chan Ho Park, or Park Chano. He was the very first Korean player to play in the MLB. He has a management company. It's called the Team 61. Now, it is not the company that bought into the athletics. They actually invested in a private equity fund. They invested 70 million, and it is that private equity fund that invested into the athletics. So it's not a direct investment from SUGA or from the Team 61. It was SUGA and Park Chano and Team 61 that invested in the private equity fund, and it was the PEF that invested in the team. 70 million is going to give them 2 to 3% stake in the team. So that's pretty significant. Outside of Suga, Yi Manduk chairman of Samchuli Group, a chaebol in South Korea. Wang In-soon, CEO of Ascend Partners, also a chaebol in South Korea. And then there's Mike Zhu, who's a global chief operating officer of Bank of America Merrill Lynch, an investment bank here in the US. So those are some of the investor. So this move makes Suga the first K-pop star to reportedly own a stake in an MLB team. His involvement is expected to boost the team's international profile and connect with a global fan base. Now, what is a private equity fund, which I've mentioned several times? It is an organization that pools money from different investors, and they invest on different assets or businesses in behalf of those that invested in them. This is a long term commitment. If you put your money in a PEF or a private equity fund, you should not expect your money to return in 7 to 10 years. Now, it is very rare for a private equity to get funding for something and then invests it all in one go. They would usually deploy that gradually. For example, they could look at the team, the athletics. They could look at another investment. Let's say it's robotics and then another investment in pharmaceutical. And so they have, just for example, 100 million. They could decide we are going to invest 50 million in the athletics, and then 50 million in robotics, and then 25 million in robotics, and 25 million in another company in pharmaceutical. And they are going to do that in a span of 5 years. Okay. S- And then what they do is they work to increase the value of their investment. And whatever, once it goes up, then they will sell it and distribute that to those that invested on them. But I'm jumping the gun. Okay. Usually, they have, not usually, they always have a fund manager. And that fund manager is the one that usually takes control or becomes a part of the board or takes an active position in the company that they invested in. And they work to improve its operation, grow its value, and then sell at a large profit. So the one thing that you will know for sure is that when you have a PEF backing your company, you can be assured that they will do everything within their power to increase the value of your company, because their sole goal is to get their money back. And the only way they can get their money back is when and if the value of their investment goes up. So they will work very hard to increase the value of your company so that their share also increases in value. So, what does it mean for Suga? It's pooling capital from investors like Suga to buy a private stake in Oakland Athletics or related ventures like a stadium or probably merchandise rights. The fund likely plans to increase the value of the team project, then make money through profits, appreciation, and then resell their stake in the future for gains. Now, that is not the only way he can earn. He can also, depending on the contract that they signed, earn through ongoing revenue sharing like ticket sales, merchandise. In the US, the team owners earn different ways, one of which is revenue sharing in tickets. Sponsorship, they also get a cut. Merchandising, they also get a cut. Broadcast rights, stadium concessions, and all other things that will allow them to earn, they can actually get a cut from that. Concession is the food and drinks. They earn a lot from that. So if the contract of the private equity fund includes that, then they can get recurring income. That means that Suga won't have to wait until the value of his investment goes up and he sells for him to earn money. He will be able to get dividends, a regular income from all of those things. And then, as I've said, it could also be capital gains. That means selling the stake later at a higher value. I'm not going to repeat that. I just discussed that. Now, if you are an individual investor like Suga, investing in a private equity fund as a limited partner is also an option. In this scenario, he actually did not have to disclose that he invested in the team. It is treated as a private financial transaction, especially if the fund itself is not publicly listed. The Team 61 of Park Chono and the private equity fund are both private companies. They are not public. So Suga did not have to disclose that he invested in the team. And we will discuss that. We will discuss why he actually disclosed in a bit. So, but just know that he had no legal obligation to report it to the Korean Financial Supervisory Services or FSS. This is how many high net worth individual and celebrities quietly invest through PE, private equity fund, or real estate funds or venture capital because they don't need to disclose it. And that privacy is very important to them, especially in a society like South Korea, where they seem to hate it when people from the bottom actually goes up. I'm just kidding. But it because celebrities like Suga also come with a lot of haters. And it isn't uncommon for many people to actually try and threaten the celebrity of a person if they don't get their way. One popular case was Yisang, Gary and Gil. They were a hip hop duo. They rose from the bottom up. Eventually, they were able to buy businesses, put up their own company. And in the building, one of the buildings that they bought, one of their tenants would not leave. And he started creating bad PR against Isang, saying that they were unjust and that he was being ousted out of his space, even though he was paying. He said that they are abusive celebrities, they're not good people, when in fact, number one, he was informed, and Isang was actually able to prove that they gave him enough time to move out. And even though he was willing to pay, they needed to use the space anymore, and that is the right of a private owner of a building. But he made such a huge buzz about it, asking the two to apologize. So it is not unheard of, especially for somebody who's even more popular like Suga, for celebrities, for people to try and demean or defame the reputation, try to destroy the reputation of celebrities. So this is a safe way for them to invest. They just invest in a private equity directly or by putting up their own limited liability company. That way, they don't need to disclose what businesses they are invested in. Okay. Now, when is it required for them to disclose? If they invest in a public company, then they need to disclose. They need to report to the Korean Financial Services that they actually invested in that company. That's one. Second, if Suga became a director of a listed company or a public company, or if he is investing through a corporate vehicle tied to one, then disclosure might actually apply. So, two things. If he invested in a public company, then yes. Or if he became a director of a listed company, or he invested through a corporate vehicle tied to one, then he has to disclose what kind of investments he made. Also, another thing, if he bought interests, or if he bought a stake that is really large and gives him actual control over the company, then he needs to disclose. If the fund is used to acquire a significant or controlling stake in a company and that company is public or regulated, disclosure may be triggered under the Korean Financial Investment Services and Capital Market Act. That is why they had to disclose when BTS members were given shares in HYBE, because the amount of share that they got actually gave them power and authority to affect the changes or developments of the company. Okay. Now, the other reason why people disclose is to use it as PR. For Suga, his name comes with influence and popularity. So if people learn that he's actually attached to a team in the US, then he's going to create a buzz. And he already did. People are talking about MLB in different parts of the world. They're curious about what this team is about, why he invested in this team, who is Park Chono, what is Team 61. So his name itself carries influence. And in a business like this one, being known is actually beneficial. The more they become known, the greater the influence they exercise, then the value of the company is going to go up. And let's go back to the original reason why PEF, or the original way PEFs usually earn money. They invest money. If the value goes up, then they sell. And whatever capital gains or the gains that they get, that is what they will distribute among those that invested. So that's another reason why they will disclose. Okay, next. So, as I've said in Suga's case, assuming he invested as an individual or via a personal company and does not control the fund or its asset, then he's actually not legally required to disclose this investment that he made. The news likely became public because the fund or its leadership, this time it's Park Chono, chose to share it, possibly for celebrity buzz or to attract other investors. So the name of Suga itself is actually powerful. But do remember that a PEF or an LLC or a limited liability company, these are some vehicles a celebrity could use to make investments. As I've mentioned before, many celebrities choose not to go public where they actually put their money to avoid any kind of probable or possible people trying to defame them, trying to destroy their reputation or the reputation of the company that they invest in. And remember that BTS are all smart people. They are actually college graduates. They most likely have business advisors, financial advisors. And I came from the finance industry. That was what I previously worked at. And we usually advise people, or we give our opinion that anybody who has $2 million, for example, and your goal is to grow it, don't do it yourself. It is better if you get advice from financial experts, business experts, where you can actually put your money. I hope that you are getting what I'm saying. A PF or an LLC is are actually the options, some of the ways that BTS and other celebrities could be utilizing in order to invest quietly away from the buzz and the noise of sasangs and haters. Now, when is a disclosure not required? If you have an LLC, when are you not required to disclose your investment? If it is privately held, if you invest in a company that is not listed in KOSPI or KOSDAQ, that is the equivalent of New York Stock Exchange in South Korea, or if you invested in a passive investment and the acquisition does not give the celebrity a controlling stake in the company. So, for example, if they invested in Tesla, for example, but their share is like, I don't know, 1,000 shares. That's not going to give them any amount of control over the company. Then they don't need to disclose. Or if they are not managing third party funds, there are businesses or funds where you can actually pull money from other people and you invest that or use that for businesses. Then, in that case, if you do that, you need to disclose. But if you're not doing that, then you do not need to disclose. No public disclosure in these instances will be required. The investment remains private and confidential, just like any other private business transactions. And so this is the summary. Situation: the LLC becomes a major shareholder, 5% or more of a public company, then yes, you do need to disclose, because under the Korea's Capital Markets Act, when you get 5% control over a company or ownership, then you do need to disclose. If the LLC itself is publicly traded or part of a listed conglomerate, then yes, you must report significant transactions. If the celebrity is a registered director or executive in a regulated entity, then possibly, depending on their role, they have to disclose. Or if the investment involves regulated industries like broadcasting, finance, and defense, then yes, you have to disclose. Now, they can also do direct investment, meaning it's just Suga investing in another company. You don't need to disclose in most cases. This is if you do not use an LLC, if you don't put up your own LLC and you just opt to invest directly, then you are just investing as a private individual. No need to disclose that publicly. If you're putting money into a private equity fund, a real estate fund, or a business, just like what Suga did, he put his money in Team 61, who then put it in a private equity fund, who then bought a share of the athletics, then he doesn't need to disclose. Or if he's not acquiring a controlling stake in a publicly listed company. So they may be buying shares from Tesla, Samsung, Hyundai, other companies. If it is not significant enough for them to exercise any kind of influence over the operations of the company, then they don't need to disclose. They don't have legal obligation to publicly disclose their investment. So, just as a review, when is a disclosure required, regardless of whether you directly invested or used an LLC? If you buy 5% or more of a publicly listed company, if you become an executive director, or in a regulated company. So there are, by the way, regulated industries, like the finance industry is regulated. That means there is a separate set of rules or regulations that those companies need to follow. If they invest in sensitive sectors like finance, media, defense, or broadcasting, or if they become a part of a publicly funded project or government backed investment, then they need to disclose. So at the end of it, what kind of ownership does Suga actually have? It's actually called an indirect fractional ownership. Suga did not personally or directly bought shares. Sorry, Suga did not personally buy shares to the Oakland Athletics. He invested into a private equity fund through Team 61, who then bought a stake in the athletics. That means he owns a percentage of the fund and the fund owns a percentage of the team. So, it does he actually own a team? If you want to be technically correct, you can say that he is an owner by extension, not by name on the official team ownership documents. He indirectly owns part of the team because he put his money in a management company who then invested it into a private equity fund, and it's the private equity fund who bought a stake in the team. That is the most accurate way of saying it. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that. As I've said, I will be sharing some more of what I learned in the from the finance industry, investment industry, because that's where I came from. And I do want to share what I know. It will not be it will not be a financial advice. It's just me sharing what I know and what I've experienced, and hopefully that will become, or that's going to inspire you to further research, and hopefully that's going to lead you to want to invest or get into business. But at least with what I have all will be imparting to everybody, then you'll know where to start, what kind of research to do, because that could also be overwhelming at times. Okay, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy that. Please consider investing. Please consider donating to the channel. As you know, we're expanding. We're actually launching our website, the online magazine, really, really soon, most likely second week of August or middle of August. We're going to do a proper PR and stuff like that. And we're expanding the channel because we want to have a dedicated multimedia channel or multimedia publication that will push the awareness and growth of Asian art, Asian entertainment, and will also help Asian artists get access to a bigger audience, which is North America. So please consider donating. But also, please follow me on X and also on IG. But more importantly, please be a part of my Patreon community. That's where the conversations are happening. I also opened a membership in YouTube. So there I'm posting other videos in there, exclusive videos, just for you to, or if you just want to support me, please do that. Also, more importantly, please like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification button. But more importantly, share the video. That's really what's going to help the channel. If you share the video, send it to your friends, send the link to the channel, a link to the video to your friends, put it on your social media. That is going to help a lot. Thank you so much. Till next time.